and welcome to Tarmac. I am Dave and we're welcoming back Matthew.
Hello again, after a long sort of departure, but I'm back with something quite special because this is the Volkswagen T-Roc, but not a regular one, it's the R.
That's right, it's a T-Roc in an R space. Come, let's take a look at this. All right, so the T-Roc has been upgraded or facelifted for the 2022 model. And in New Zealand, what we've done, they've got the range down to just 3. So you've got Life as a base model, you've got the R line, and then this, the baby R of the 3 or the trio of Rs that are now out there. So you've got this one, the T-Roc, you've got the Golf R, and you've got the Tiguan R. This one comes in lapis blue, which is basically the trademark for R, and you'll see the blue theme all over the place. But looking a bit closer here, the thing that you'll be able to notice to make this different from the normal T-Roc is the fact that it's got the LEDs, or the IQ LEDs, or matrix LEDs. It's got the, what do they call it, the light moustache that comes across here, so the DRLs and stuff like that come along here. Of course, it's got the R badging, which goes without saying. And also it comes with the front bumper and rear bumper, which is very R specific. So there you go from there. And look at these grills, or these vents, sorry. So the vents behind here, you've got a radiator that side, a radiator that side, a radiator in the middle. Everyone gets a radiator in this car. Fabulous. Let's look around the side. Being as this is a facelift, there are no difference in terms of dimensions or wheelbases or anything like that. But what you'll notice in the R is the fact of these Estoril wheels, which are a 19-inch, which come with the R brake calipers behind in blue. So matching the paintwork in some respects. Told you to keep an eye out for that blue. More R-line badges. You've got the skirting down here, which is very much in the R line and also R bracket. Black roof. Now there is an optional sunroof, but this one doesn't have it. But also the rails here, and also the mirror caps are in a silver color from there. And also looking down, well, no difference from the other T-Rocs, but there you go. Let's look around the rear. So around the rear here, you've got a lovely roofline boot spoiler, or roofline spoiler to those in the know. Also, you've got someone stolen the T-Roc's lettering and replaced it with just an R. So OCT, there you go. And it's got the R bumpers here from, you know, as I said about the earlier side. And I thought this would actually be open, but there's no grille. The big thing here, as you'll notice, is the fact that it's got this Abercrombie and Fitch exhaust pipe.
And Akrapovic.
Yeah, that thing. So basically very designer looking. This is obviously an option, but basically I'm so happy that it's got it because it does make it crack and pop and bang when it needs to do, and that's good fun. The other thing is it has a kicker tailgate. Look at that. Very cool. Plenty of room inside here for your stuff. And also these lights here are LEDs. So actually quite a lot going on the back here. Let's take a look under the bonnet. What we have here is a 2-litre turbocharged engine that gives you 221 kilowatts of power and 400, get this, 400 newton meters of torque. That's a massive amount on a vehicle that is basically weighs about the same weight as me. So as you can see, they've taken the cover off here so you can see what's going on. The fuel economy is around about 9.3 litres per 100 kilometres, and it does around about 215 grams per kilometre out of that exhaust, or the twin quad exhaust actually out the back there. But get this, a 0 to 100 time of under 5 seconds. In actual fact, I think is around about 4.6 seconds. We will try this out, but shh, don't tell anyone. Anyway, speaking of things that are quick and wearing blue, Matthew's inside and he'll show you what's going on in there.
Well, what Dave's saying might have some merit to it actually, and an R badge show it would look pretty nice, I think. Speaking of things with R badges, well, this interior's got quite a few of them. You've got some on the side skirts there, or the door, the scuff plates, and then you've got some on the seats, you've got some on the floor mats, you've got one on the steering wheel here, and one R shortcut button over here. Plus you've got an R badge on the key and then on the keychain as well. A nice touch is that there is actually a slot that fits both the key and the Volkswagen R keychain, so they have thought about the free gifts that they would give a buyer. Cool stuff. Another cool thing is the amount of blue in here. So you've seen the lapis blue on the outside and on the brake calipers. Well, on the inside you've got blue highlights on the door there. You've got the stitching, which is blue. You've got the highlights on the steering wheel, which is blue. The floor mats, those are outlined in blue as well. And then the seats, well, they've got blue stitching, a blue R badge, and some sort of fake or rather copy carbon fiber inserts there. All in all, they are pretty nicely bolstered, and the leather is comfortable too. And not to forget, they are heated as well. So it is a comfortable experience all around. Speaking of things that are soft, well, the top of the dashboard is covered in a soft-ish sort of material there with some stitching, which isn't actually blue for a change. You got piano black plastics there. They do get dusty and will attract fingerprints. Sorry to the person who has to clean this. But it sort of gives a nice premium look to the top of the dashboard there. You do have scratchy materials here and there on the doors as well. But again, this isn't, this isn't a massively luxurious car. This is a performance car, and it's got all the bits that you want to see, in especially an R model. This is a T-Roc underneath somewhere, so it must also be practical. One of those things is this wireless phone charging pad over here, which actually keeps your phone sort of out of reach, angled away from you, and never distracts the driver, which I quite like actually. There's a start button there. There's also the 4Motion badging that tells you that it's got those performance credentials shared by the Tiguan R, so you really can stick around the corners. What I like as well is it's got a proper old school gear shifter here, which you actually have to move to get into different gears. Remember that there is also a sport and a manual option on here. The other highlight in the middle here is this rotary wheel, which starts off with snow and then road, off-road and off-road expert. And then once you go into road, you can actually dive deeper into the modes, right from eco, normal, race, and then an individual mode as well, which you can customize. It's also got cup holders there. Remember, it's a practical car at the end of the day as well as a sports car. Anyway, back to the technology, because there is a lot going on. So let's take a look at the infotainment screen. Now this infotainment screen up here, well, you'll recognize the format is common to Volkswagens, and nothing wrong with that. It's a nice looking screen, and as you see there, the features sort of popped up as I brought my hand close. It's something that always entertains passengers in these cars, which is a cool feature. So the big thing with this R model screen is that when you go into menu there and then vehicle, you actually have a performance monitor here which tells you your turbo pressure and bar, your G-forces, and the amount of kilowatts you're using in terms of power. Bring your finger closer and you can actually bring them to make the bars highlight, and you can actually change what you're seeing as well by pressing those arrows there. The other cool thing is if you click off-road, similar sort of 3-gauge setup there with your inclination angles, your compass, and then also your elevation. So there is a lot going on, and similarly, if you bring your hand closer, you can actually make them zoom in and then change them with the arrows on the screen. So some cool stuff there. And in terms of customization, well, there's some stuff that you can do on that virtual cockpit as well. So let's have a look at that. The screen over here in front of the driver is a mix of both analog and digital. So as you can see on the right, there's a fuel gauge, and on the left a temperature gauge that is fixed there. You can't change that, but in the middle you can change what you see over there. So you have the rev counter on the left, the speedometer on the right, and then a digital speedometer in the middle. Now if you press buttons on the steering wheel, you can actually change what you see there in terms of temperatures, consumptions, range. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can go through, and similarly with the buttons on the steering wheel, you can change through the other things that you see. It's got these large paddle shifters on each side which do actually move with the steering wheel, so it's always there when you need it. The haptic touch buttons over there, which the jury is still out in that one, but we are getting more familiar with it as time goes on. As you can see here, it's also got a steering wheel heater and then a special shortcut R button there, but we'll tell you what that does later on. The steering wheel itself is nice leather wrapped, good solid thumb grips, and a nice flat bottom as well, so it feels really performance orientated. Speaking of things that are performance orientated, well, this is a proper R car, so let's take it for a drive.
Okay, so the T-Roc R, and yes, they are calling it the baby R, and that's fine, but realistically the power source that's in here, the 2 litre, is no baby, and we'll show you that in a minute. But overall it is a baby SUV, but it's practical, as Matthew pointed out, but also it really does have that performance angle to make it a valuable R trio, a part of the valuable R trios.
And that's probably sums this car up really well. And it actually, there's plenty of videos going around on the internet of this car actually laying waste to performance SUVs that are a lot more expensive than it. So it is sort of the dark horse here in terms of the R range, because you expect the Golf R to be, absolutely spectacular, and then the Tiguan R, you expect that to be good as well. But the T-Roc R is not only the newest model out of the 3 in the Volkswagen range, and then you add the R badge to it with that 296 brake horsepower engine, and you get a real weapon, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd take that back about the Tiguan, though. I think that was a surprise for me. That really is a great vehicle. This, however, is also around about in New Zealand about 10 grand cheaper than the Golf R, so it's full of performance, but unless you're into that whole drifting mode that the Golf has got, this is arguably a better buy.
And what Dave said in terms of, it's not only cheaper than a Golf R, but if you think about it, it's easier to get children and child seats into the back of one of these, and then similarly the boot is, at a point which makes it a lot easier to load stuff in and out of. So it does make sense, and especially given that it is so much cheaper, it is really an attractive buy.
Then of course you can find an open road and push this little R button that opens up that exhaust and opens up the thrills. It's fast. It is fast. Everything tightens up. The suspension's tighter. The steering is progressive. So the faster you go, the tighter it is. And you do want to go fast in this. I mean, I'm just over the speed limit right now, and wow. And also we will show you the 0 to 100 in a second as well, but it is just a fast vehicle. .6 seconds. That is bang on.
And I've got to say, that 7-speed dual clutch gearbox is really hyperactive when you press that R button. Dave was cruising along in 7, put his foot down and dropped down straight to 4th, and gave you that power at the top of the rev range. So it really does react quicker than you can, to be honest.
Yeah, anything's quicker than I am anyway. The other side of it, I mean, it is quite a firm ride, and certainly the wheel, you can feel the road coming through and hear the road coming through. It's this is no sort of it's no magic carpet ride by any stretch of the imagination, and there is a certain amount of wind noise coming through, not as much as I thought it would, but possibly to do with the roof rails, to be honest. Visually, or looking at, as far as looking out the windows goes, it's fine, and the mirrors are big enough. Everything's going fine to have a look around from a small SUV point of view.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think you can actually fit people in the back, and everybody's got good enough headroom and legroom and all that stuff. And cubbies for everyone too. So they have thought about making it still a T-Roc as well as a performance R model.
I think it's more of a 4-seater though than a 5-seater, if I'm honest, and that's what I'm supposed to be, right? I like the digital display. I like the fact that it can be personalizable. That's always good. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Volkswagen's virtual cockpit. It's really good, and just the steering wheel feel is nice. It feels sporty. It feels ready and raring to go.
And I will, in terms of sport, as you know, race is one of the drive modes, and I did actually miss one earlier for those keen YouTube viewers. I missed comfort out. So you do have eco, comfort, race, and individual. Those are your 4 road going modes.
But the thing is, as we said, comfort isn't necessarily one of this vehicle's strongest points. But performance is. It really is. And in the corners, just awesome. It just goes all the way around. Well, like really well. To the point where you can scare your passengers quite nicely.
And I've got to say, while these seats are good in terms of bolstering, when you are really going enthusiastically around country roads as we are now, you do tend to slip out of them a little bit. So maybe more bucketed seats would have been better.
Or become larger like me. The exhaust is great as well, so once you're under higher revs in sport mode, you do get those lovely crackles, and you end up just trying to load up that turbo to make it crackle and pop as it should. Awesome.
I mean, Akrapovic or Akrapovic or however you say it, the one thing that's undeniable is they make some good exhaust systems, and this one is easily one of their finest. You can hear those gear shift pops really well, and of course it revs up and it gives you a really operatic tune, if you like.
Always good. So there you have it, Volkswagen's new T-Roc R. It really does deserve to be in the lineup of trio of Rs. It's incredibly fast, full of performance, and just so much fun to drive. And also, what I didn't point out earlier, it does brake well, so kind of handy from there. And also practical, so you can actually take the kids out should you want to.
I've got to say, it's been an absolute surprise, this car, but in the best possible way. And who cares about all that practical and kids stuff? It's loud and fast. That's what matters.
There you go, nail on the head. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Had to get that out. It's around here somewhere, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.